This week on Squats and Margaritas, it's award-winning entertainment journalist and media personality, Gia Peppers. We met on Pinky Cole's American Sesh, but unfortunately, we're seated so far away from each other that not only could we not see each other on the panel, but we didn't even meet. I know now that she had to fly back to LA right after the sesh, so we will rectify that today. Please do me a favor and hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode. And please take 2 seconds to just leave me a quick review for Squats and Margaritas on Apple Podcasts. Here is my episode with Gia Peppers.
Hi.
Hello, gorgeous. I mentioned in the intro, we were both on American Sesh together, which I'm not sure if we're allowed to talk about exactly what that was yet. So I'm not going to say what it was, but I said we were on a panel and we could not have been seated further apart. Like I couldn't even see you.
Yeah, it was the weird circle.
Yeah, so we didn't even meet. Like we were on the same panel, but then you had to fly back to LA. And
Yes.
like I said, I could hear you talking, but I was on the right of Pinky. You were to the left of Derek. So I couldn't even, I was just like, hey girl, we're meeting here today. You grew up in the DMV. I know your dad was a journalist. Is that what sparked you wanting to do what you do now?
Yeah, so my dad is a huge part of it. I think there's a lot of inspiration that comes to mind, but it's several things. So basically my mom is a doctor. She was not really here for like a career in the arts, and growing up in she's a third generation Washingtonian herself. So growing up in this area, you see a lot of talented people, especially before like the 2000s, that didn't really make it far in entertainment because DC is all about like politics and the blue collar jobs or doctors, lawyer, like more of those professional careers than in anything in entertainment. And she hadn't really seen anybody make it. So she was always like, you got to have a backup plan. Like you got to have a job, you got to have a degree. And I always grew up singing, dancing, acting, and loving that more than anything else. So I always say she was like Cheryl Lee Ralph in the movie Sister Act 2 when she was telling Lauryn Hill that the choir in the competition is out. Like my mom was all that. But it ended up helping me because I was able to use my love of creativity and put it into journalism. And I also always grew up loving talk shows. Like my mom said, I was a baby that couldn't be placed in timeout because I would be hosting talk shows in my room with my dolls. And I would stay up with her, or when I was a baby, I wouldn't sleep. We would watch Arsenio Hall, and some of my first phrases were woo, woo, woo. So like, I just was always a kid of the culture, always loved storytelling. And I always loved people's drive behind how they show up in this space, because this is a hard business. So I didn't know that then. I was just more enthralled by people who like were able to accomplish dreams in entertainment. And so, yeah, in high school, I did morning news. When I went to college, I started studying journalism, and my dad was just like, you got to go to get internships. And so I started interning and then hustling, and, I haven't stopped since, literally.
Yes. It's so interesting. We couldn't have different stories on how we came to like what we're doing. Like I had no clue that I want to do this. I was an athlete. I was a Division I college soccer player. And then I just said I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And during the pandemic, I was just going live, Gia, like what in the hell am I supposed to do with a 2 and a 4-year-old when the schools are closed and the playgrounds are closed? And a program director at WTOP in DC was watching me every week. I would just be like, pour a cocktail. We're going to talk about momming in a pandemic. And it was this little Instagram live show. I had no other aspirations except just entertaining moms and getting through the pandemic. And she was watching me every week, and I did it for a couple of months, and she called me and she's like, this is a show. WTOP will produce it. And they sent me all the stuff. And I have a podcast now, and it's my favorite thing I've ever done. Never could have seen it coming, was like zero aspiration. And now I know that I'm on this planet to share inspiring stories. We have a similar why, to inspire other women to feel seen and not alone. And I love what I do, but I had no clue that I was ever going to do this. And now I'm hosting a show.
I love it. Look, it's so dope. That's why the storytelling is so important, because a lot of people have different paths to the same place. And when I think of like my audience members and the people who do support me and watch, I'm like, there's some little girl watching that's like, I don't have money for a mic, but I want to tell my story. And, she could hear this and be like, oh my goodness, she didn't even know she wanted to do it. And it just came to her, and I can still do this. So I love that, we get the different versions of the bottom line is what's supposed to happen in your life will get to you, like will come to you and you can have it.
100%. And you mentioned like a little girl seeing you. You always talk about how diversity and representation matters. Can you talk about, I know coming up like kindergarten through 8th grade, like elementary, you were in a mostly white school and you said you had to be like a chameleon. Can you talk about that time and kind of how that shaped you to want to be a figure for another Black girl to see that somebody can do this?
Yeah. So that time was really interesting in my life. So my growing up in DC and Maryland, we were enthralled, entrenched in Blackness. Like it was the chocolate city.
Chocolate City.
I'm a Black child. Like my parents are Black, everybody's Black in my family. Like that was PG County, growing up in DC and PG, like that's really all we knew. And so when my mom started working in different parts of the healthcare arm of the government, she wanted us to make sure that we were closer to her office and in a private school, Catholic school, a school that was based in religion. So we went to a school called Holy Cross. And I had gone before then to an all like Black, very small in a home preschool, but all the children were brilliant because all the teachers taught us how to do everything before we even got to school. And so I went from being surrounded by like a class of like, 6 young Black kids from like 2 to 4 and really 5, because I was late in my start for Holy Cross. But when I got there, I was reading and teaching kids how to read, and I knew how to do all this stuff. Like I was just looking around like, y'all don't know how to read, like spell your name. Like it was interesting. But as I grew older, my mom made sure that even though we were in mostly white spaces in our schooling, everything outside of our schooling was 100% Black. And the reason why I say the chameleon is because when you are in your formative years of, 10, 11, 12, you are trying to figure out where you belong in the world. And you're like, boys are now a thing. And, you're trying to figure out if you're pretty and what do you sound like? Who do you look up to? And I thank God for my mom putting us in Black things outside of school, because I probably would have not really understood who I was without it. And so when I would be in the white spaces, I would feel like I don't belong there. And then I would be in the Black spaces and I feel like I don't belong there because I was too Black for the white kids and too white for the Black kids. Code switching is not foreign to the Black experience at all, but it's hard when you learn it when you're so young because you're trying to figure out who you are. So it was really interesting to experience that. I am not mad at my parents putting me in that school, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, you could have let me do the middle school, like let me out a little bit earlier. But thank God for my high school. It was so good. I was surrounded by all types of people, but there was so many Black kids that like I learned to affirm myself at 14, 15. Like if I hadn't had that at 14, 15, 16, I don't know who I would have been. One, you don't know until Dr. King's, holiday and we're watching films and all the white kids are looking at you like, and you're like,
yeah,
what I do?
I just got goosebumps when you said you don't know. My children are biracial and they're 7 and 5. Yeah. So I worry more about my daughter, especially because I struggle so much with like body image and comparing and just not having self-worth. So it is like my mission that she will not. But when we moved to the South, she's the only, so there's a Black boy in her class and Amaya, my daughter, and everyone else is white. It is just in a predominantly white area. It was not like that in the DMV where she had 10 friends that were like mixed children that she played with, but here it's very different. And she's not noticed or like ever asked me that now that we're down here, we are near my, whatever I call him, my estranged husband's family. So they're all Black. All her cousins are Black. She doesn't look like them, obviously. And she never has asked me. Or then we'll go play with my sister's kids who are blonde hair, blue eyes, obviously don't look like my kids. There's no question. I'm just like waiting for her to be like, they don't fit in either way. And I like when you're saying like about being a chameleon, I want them to be their authentic self and not have to like conform to be like anyone but themselves. They're not asking the question. I don't know. I don't want to like put something on them to like, you realize too early.
Them be a kid. Yeah.
Let them be a kid. But then people are like, if you don't put it on them, like you just said, like they're putting on the Martin Luther King speech and everyone's looking at you. Who did I talk to about this? She was like, you have to equip them because someone on the playground is going to be like, what are you? And my daughter's going to be like, a girl. Like she's not equipped because I'm not telling her. But on the other hand, I don't want to put this heavy thing on her when she's not even seeing it.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, obviously I'm not mixed, so I don't know
No, I
that
know, right. But you
experience. And I
growing
think
up
that
and
there,
not feeling,
yeah, but I was gonna say there is this it's on HBO Max, I believe, where it was like Black Like Me, White Like Me. There is a film and a documentary and a series about this actual reality, because so many children who are of mixed race do feel this. And so I definitely think you should look at that, because I think this woman has a literal book about it and then did a docu-series about it too. But I don't have kids, but what I know is, like, when I was I didn't realize that there was major differences until we were old enough to have those conversations. I think maybe what your other guest was saying was like having the talk with them about how proud they should be of
yes,
being representatives of many cultures. Like, I
yes,
think that's a beautiful way to put it. I think God makes us who we are, and we will be that. And then the world puts us in a box of who they think we are. So I do agree, like having some talks about like, oh, you should be proud. You are both, representing Blackness, and you are a white child as well. You have both. There's nothing wrong with that. I have some mixed friends who identify more in the Black space. I have some mixed friends who identify more with their white side. I think it's
yep,
more like what you're exposed to when you're growing up. And then I have friends who are like, I'm both, and like, like it's just like
yeah,
one of those things
yeah.
where it's not but we're old enough to have nuanced conversations. So I definitely think now, like, maybe the conversations are more hopeful and more celebratory of the things you represent, and allowing her to spend time with her dad's culture to find out, more about her dad, and your
Yeah.
culture and your family to find out more about where you come from. Because we should be proud of who we are. We of all that we are made to be. None of us can choose that what we
Exactly.
come into the world as white, Black, Spanish, Asian. We can't choose that. And so I think that's beautiful that you start the celebratory, like, wow, look at you, that's so special. I think
It's
that's awesome.
special that, yeah, you get to be like, mommy's white, daddy's Black. You get to be both. Like,
Mhm.
what a like special thing that she embodies. You were saying like you don't have kids, so you're not going to speak on that, but I know you want
Oh
to have
yes, I
kids.
won't. I
I
want a
know.
husband.
I want to talk about dating. We're both firstborn perfectionists, like continue it, like nothing's ever good enough, and like focused on our careers. Do you ever feel like being an ambitious woman
Mm.
is like intimidating or off-putting to a man that's like, it's Gia Peppers, like he wants to talk to you, but it's like you're intimidating? Do you ever feel like that comes into play?
Yeah, sometimes it makes me cringe, because I I've heard that from my friends, but even before I got into my career. So
Mm.
apparently there's something about me that my friends in high school were like, yeah, you just seem like you have it together. And I'm like, we're in high school. Who has it together? Like,
You
what is that?
do.
But
You
I
have like a
don't.
magic about an energy about you that like maybe, not saying you don't need a man, but like I would feel intimidated.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I also know that weeds it out a little bit. And you're like,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
you intimidated now. I'm not even halfway to where I'm about to
You're
be.
just getting
So
started.
So,
Yes.
like, if you are intimidated now, and I've seen guys weed themselves out quite a bit. One of my guy friends was saying that there was someone who's interested, but they aren't gonna say anything because I talk about God. And I'm like, that's all good, bro. I don't
Bye.
like nobody that got no issues with me talking about, like, a lot of these people weed themselves out, and I am okay with that. And also, just like, it's a part of my cross to carry. Unfortunately, that just comes with the territory of being a person with a voice. And
Yes.
I have always had a voice. And so when I was into high school and I was dating, my first love was amazing, but at the end of the day, he felt like I would be too big, and literally was like, you're going places, I can't do this. And so it is the bane of my dating experience,
Yeah.
that conversation, you're going, and I'm just like, ooh, okay, guy, align me with the man who's going somewhere that wants somebody to go with him, because I can't do this, like,
Yeah.
the conversation anymore, because it's kind of heartbreaking, because I come from an ambitious woman. My mother is ambitious. She still to this day works harder than anybody I know, trying to get her to slow down. However, all of her friends are like, don't work as hard as she does, because I think she needs to slow down. But a lot of her friends are in high demand careers, doctors, lawyers, surgeons, and have husbands.
And
So
she's
I grew
married. That's
up,
what I'm saying. Like
yeah,
your
I
dad is
grew
there
up
for it. Like,
with the reality that you can have a career. You and your husband will have a great marriage, and it can be hard and it's work and it's not fun all the time. And the kids are stressful and you need to get in there and all that stuff. But like, I know it can work. I need my one person to find me. We need to find each other because it's not impossible. Just one guy. Every other guy can
yes.
weed himself out. I just need my one. And then
Yes,
we
and
gonna
you've
get
seen it work. Like, and
so
Gia,
many times.
I'm 10 years older than you. So I'm so happy for you to like step into this and know this knowing now, because I mean, that's what happened. I
Yeah.
was like on my husband's arm and just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and had no aspirations. And then like the show fell into my lap. And then I started writing books. And then I have a nonprofit now and I'm traveling and speaking. And he's like, like, what is this? Because he signed up for this demure little on his arm, just wants to stay at home. I found, and I know you get it. I'm not choosing career, but it is a purposeful alignment on exactly why I'm on this planet. And the only thing that is making it hard is my partner, my support person. And I finally was like, this is what I'm doing. I understand that I met you when I was 24 and I said, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, but I have evolved and found my calling and my purpose. And this is what I'm doing now. And he's not here for it, but
Wow.
you
I'm
have to
sorry
be
that happened.
aligned. I'm also very spiritual. I'm just like kind of on this spiritual path. I have to share a couple of things that just happened to me. This is how I knew, like my foundation for the girls is called Blue Butterfly. For let's say 2 weeks, every single day, a blue butterfly was landing on my doorstep and not going away. And like every day I'd look out or my kids would be like, Mommy, your butterfly. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, God, I see it. I don't know what to do with it, but you said this too. There's so much power on like what you've come out of. And I struggled for 20 years with body image, multiple eating disorders. And I came out of it and I wrote a book about like how to help other women. But what I am here for is to create a space for teen girls who are coming through it now and struggling with body image and self-worth. I went through that to create a space that wasn't there when I needed it. I called it Blue Butterfly. I go to like speak now and I see the butterfly everywhere and it's always blue. It was one particular day where he who will not be named was like, you should be home. These are your kids. Like you're going to speak in Nashville when you're a mom. Gia, Atlanta airport, biggest airport in the world. I could have stopped and went to the bathroom. I could have been a minute late in traffic. There's so many obstacles that could have changed things. I come through TSA. I could have made a right or a left. I go right. The bin, full body goosebumps. The bin that I was putting my shoes on had a blue butterfly sticker in it. Like I keep getting and I was like, there's no way that could have I could have gone that way. And I was like, God, he keeps giving me like, keep going. And like you said, just you knowing it now that your match will be aligned with seeing you evolve and be supportive of that and not feel triggered by that. I mean, you go as far to say you pray for your spouse. Can you share that? Because that is the most beautiful thing.
Yeah, one of my friends, Jovi and Zane, who is one of the upcoming guests on Healed Girl Era, so I'm really excited for that conversation. She and I talk all the time. I asked her one day, I was in the middle of driving to New York from DC, which I did quite a bit in my days of hosting for the Washington Wizards. And those times I would use to pray and vent to myself and just talk out loud or sing or whatever and get it out. And one day she called and was like, hey, how are you? And I'm just like, girl, I am angry that I'm single. Like, I'm so angry. It's been forever. Like, this is so annoying. It's just not okay. And, you know, I think I had just gotten out of a situation that went left that, you know, I thought would be great. And I was just like, I've tried nice guys. I've tried bad guys. I've tried guys who are ambitious. I've tried guys who aren't. Like, I don't understand. And she was just like, I need you to breathe. And I need you to know, like, I was where you are. She's now married with like a beautiful child. And that time she was engaged. And she was just like, I started to pray for my future partner. And I didn't know who it was going to be. I was dating a couple guys at the time, but I knew how I needed his heart to be. So you need to pray for your partner. You need to pray that he's doing okay. You need to pray that he's waking up and feeling loved. You need to pray that he's feeling emotionally ready for love. You need to pray that his heart is getting ready. You need to pray that his day goes well. Like, pray good things over him. Start speaking life and creating space in your heart for him already, because at the end of the day, when he does come, you will be able to really understand that those prayers of wanting him are now the prayers that you can replace with having him and knowing his real things, but you'll get used to praying for him and having him. And so that was such a great piece of advice. And so I don't do it every day, because it gets to be sometimes, it just, other things happen in life, family, health issue, other things start to pile on the prayer list. But I try to do at least once a week where I'm like, okay, let me sit and think about this. What do I hope he's feeling today? What do I hope for in not even his physical, but his soul, and like, all the things. And so, that's how I try to keep some hope in this single season that I'm in.
You are going to manifest your match, because you are living your life authentically as you are. And not that I wasn't like, it makes sense to me now. I manifested the match for who I used to be. I was just this, like, I had no ambition. It was like, this worked well. And now coming into who I am, hopefully living in alignment with who I am, I will manifest the match for this. Like, putting out this energy will bring, so you at least knowing who you are and living authentically. And I was listening to your recent episode with Kelly Rowland, and she was talking about like not littling things and not shrinking. And women don't do that. Like, especially, I don't feel like I started coming into this till at least 40, maybe like the last 2 years, just not apologizing, not shrinking yourself down, just living big.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a everyday challenge that we put on ourselves to stand in those big shoes that we have, because we are as on purpose as we are also people. And this life is scary. This life stuff is hard and is difficult, no matter if you are a podcaster, a Grammy Award winning singer, a pastor, a mom who stay at home but has, the hardest job in the world because you have to be everything to everyone, or you are a teacher or a dentist, or you work at the gas station. It doesn't matter. Where you're a nurse, like, it doesn't matter. We all have really hard lives and really big calls to follow. And so when I was having that convo with Kelly, she was talking about the time in Destiny's Child when people just really didn't think that they were going anywhere. And they had been trying for so long, and they had been rehearsing since they was 8. And at 14, they still were not really, like, they were signed, but they didn't make it yet. And she just was talking about how she remembers this woman in her mom's life who was literally just the whole time like, their little thing, they're cute. Here they go with their little dreams. Now they've sold millions of records, are some of the most talented women on this planet, and do that singularly and as a group. So I just love that she was able to look back and take gleam from that had that person actually believed in her dreams at that time, it wouldn't have been such a fight to like convince others, people in your community, to support you. Because now if that lady or somebody want to ask for a ticket or some support or love, like, look. But on the other side, it sounded like also it fueled them to keep going forward.
Yes.
You have to believe in your dream no matter what. And sometimes life will put people in your place that don't believe in you. So you can be like, oh, they think I'm joking. Okay, let me go harder. And so I also love that point. But yeah, it's an everyday thing for me. I have to literally, like, especially putting out Healed Girl Era, I have had to find versions of myself that I haven't had to tap into in a while. And so I've had to put on a lot of different hats. I've had to like literally look my anxiety in the mirror and be like, girl, no, we're not doing this today. The anxiety not winning. Let's get back to this like thing. Like, it's just not going to happen, because I've let my anxiety keep me from putting out my own things for years. And I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not allowing my emotions, which change, all the time with, everything that happens in my life, whether that is dating, whether it is whatever, to stop me from what I'm supposed to do. And so that's where I'm at with it. Like, this is an act and not shrinking. Heal Girl Era is an act for me. And so it's tough. It's like being in the gym and getting this muscle back, but I'm learning the habits that I need to be successful in this chapter, in this era of my life.
and you've gotten to the point where you will just ask the ask and not talk yourself out of it? Like Kelly, you're like, I don't know. And then you like got an opportunity and you took it.
Yes. Yes. We were at a church conference, Sarah Jakes Roberts Woman Evolve conference, and it is transformative. 40,000 women in the room praising the Lord. It was insanely powerful. I've never seen the spirit like that. And I talked to girls who were like, I was on the floor, but I was talking to girls who were in like the 400s, and they were just like, it felt like she was praying for me, like just to me, like with me in mind. So it's just such an amazing experience. But Kelly and Michelle came every day, but Kelly and Mama Tina, or Miss Tina, came for like a 2-hour or 2 sessions. And my sis was getting everything she needed. She was just in such a beautiful, like, they are clearly raised in the church. It was beautiful to watch. So I wasn't going to bother her, because I'm like, sis, you know, when you're in prayer posture, you really don't want to talk about work. Like, that's just not the thing. That's right. So we end up catching eyes, and then we're leaving, and I'm just like, Kelly, and I just pulled it to the side, and I'm just like, I love you so much. Like, it's so good to see you. I'm so happy for you. And she's like, thanks, boo. And we're just talking, and I'm just like, I don't want to ask you this now, but eventually, whenever you're ready, I would love to finally have a sit down interview with you. I really love to. And she was just like, okay, let's do it. And she gave me her number and like literally was like, here's my assistant, let's figure it out. And I was just like, that is God himself.
Yes.
So I said, all right, Lord, if this is meant to be, then you'll make it be. And every single thing since then has been like God literally pushing me to stop playing games. Like, girl, stop playing games. You have that too. Yup. You need that. You have that too. Yup. You got laid off. Great. I got something for you. Like, it's just different. It's all different things that are happening. But at the end of the day, Kelly saying yes means the world to me, because she's a childhood, a teenagehood, a womanhood hero of mine. She's been a hero of mine since I was old enough to know who she really was. And she's always been kind. In my professional career, you meet a lot of celebrities. Some of them are great. Some of them are not so great. And she's always heart first, light first, work after.
And God gave you that opportunity. You're like, no, like she's praising, she's worshiping. And then it was like, she was right in front of you. And then you gain confidence with everyone. And I had a similar story. Do you know Gabby Bernstein? The universe has your back. Like, she's just a big like manifestation. I was speaking, like one of the opening speakers for Gabby was like the keynote, and I'm in the front row, and I had my show, but I'm like, Gabby, like, obviously I'd want to interview Gabby Bernstein, but whatever. So I get a God wink. She's mid-sentence and she's talking. She's like, those shoes are sick. And she points to my shoes. And I was like, oh, thanks. Then I was like, like, I'm gonna shoot my shot. It was the same thing. I was like, I would love to have you on my show. She was like, yeah, here's my assistant's number. And I was like, it was that easy, but like, I almost didn't ask. And then I wonder too, us being like perfectionists, like firstborns, are you ever satisfied? Or do you take like the moment to be like, I just interviewed Kelly Rowland? Or is it like, I finally interviewed Katie Couric. It took a year. And I put out my episode with Katie Couric, and I didn't even take that moment. It was like, who can I get next? And I hate that about myself. Like, are you ever satisfied, or do you take a time to be like, look what I've built and look who I interviewed? Or is it always like kind of looking at the next thing?
I think I do a better job of not being so hard on myself, because I as the oldest, as a Virgo, all the things, like, it's just like you really just, my mind is always 100 tabs open. But I know that this is a training ground and a meant to be moment in many ways. It's calling for parts of myself that I didn't even like anticipate having to come out. Like, it's wild, but I do sit and celebrate. Like, even if my friends aren't available, I'll go take myself out to dinner, or I'll like take flights to Jamaica and be like, girl, you did that. Like, I do celebrate. And one thing I'm asking and demanding of myself in this season is that I believe who God says I am, and I believe in the talent that I have and the faith that I say I have. And so, I'm owning it. I'm not like, I'm humble. I'm like, yes, thank you very much. But yet now I'm like, also like, yeah, I did work really hard. That was really hard. And I made something happen. And our more than that, YouTube series helped me finally get the creative confidence back, because even though I host the show, executive producer show, I don't have creative control. So the frustration of not being able to like put everything out that I wanted to, and then also the celebration of seeing something from idea to fruition, and then it actually be great, is what I needed to get to this part of my journey. And so I am finally in a space where I'm feeling creatively confident, and I'm making mistakes and I'm not afraid of them. And that was such a hard thing for me, being vulnerable enough to put yourself out there, even though you really don't know what you're doing all the time, but you're just trying, you're just showing up, and you're just like, hey, I'm going to figure it out. Like, I know that I have that capacity to figure it out.
My goal would be to scale like you have, to like take my show and have the video component and like the team. I get very like, I'm a micromanager, and I would just be like, it's hard for me to trust that other people will get the vision. Like, talk me through how you got to the point where you're like, I'm sure you just it got bigger and you're like, I need a team, but like trusting a team to make this a bigger thing and take it from like a podcast to a YouTube show to like what you've made it. When did you get to that point where you were like, it's not just going to be you, and you needed to like trust that other people got the vision?
Yes.
You know what you want to do, and then you have to have a team, like the team around. It's hard for me to delegate at all because it's my baby.
Yeah, I'll talk about Heel Girl Era because I have more understanding of that from the baby seed to the tree.
Yes.
But for Healed Girl Era, it kind of just came to me, and I was like, I want to do the show, this conversation series. And I knew it was going to be filmed because I've done so many on-camera interviews that have been overly edited. So I was like, well, I'm going to finally allow my real personality to shine and be there for the people. And then also I knew that like, I love beautifully shot interviews. So I had my inspiration board that had different screenshots of what I expected the set to look like. And I reached out to a few creatives. Shout out to Brittany Janae. She's an amazing DP, and she helped me figure out how much it would cost to bring this to life. I had to just, save. I ain't buying too much. I ain't doing too much. Like, it's now I've had to like actually put in my own funds to this. And I understand that, I won't do that always, but I do know that this is where I wanted to start. I wanted it to be a really great start episode. So I also know that I'm not going to rent a home in, the hills for every guest either. Like for Kelly, I really wanted her to know how much her yes meant to me. So
you gave her the flowers at the end. She could feel it like that. I could feel it.
And that's what, and I wanted the set to reflect that. Like I wanted everything to reflect that, because Kelly is so much of a North Star for so many of us. I want her to have all the best in the world. And so, I was like, okay, we got to get this, that. And so really, I just made a spreadsheet. My team, my one of my best girls is my assistant. Her name's Raven. You've talked to her a lot. She helped me come up with a spreadsheet. So basically what I did was I identified every person on my team that would lead what they know. So Brittany knows video. I had to let it go in the name of Jesus. I said, all right, can't micromanage you because I can't edit. I don't know. I can edit on iMovie, but I can't do it on Final Cut. So you lead that. She brings in a team that of all types of people. I need a photographer. I know several photographers. Bring in my photographer, pay her, pay Brittany and her team, audio, lighting, the space. I had to pay for the space, find it on Peerspace, make sure everybody had parking. Then I had to do, making sure that my management that are helping me produce was able to get, access to everything, pay for the snacks for the set, make sure the second guest was aligned. So it was a lot. I had to learn how to really tap in, and I learned a lot from that session as well. But you just have to trust that the people that you believe in, know what you're saying, have a vision that is there. So like make a Pinterest board or something you can screenshot, have links. What do you want it to look like? Also, my designer that I've been working with for a long time designed the logo. what did I want that to look like? She and I work together. So you just have to like keep your brain open to a lot of different people. And then once you build it, you can have more of a formula.
Yeah.
But you
Okay.
have to build it, and it takes a lot of groundswell and takes a lot of like days where you're just like, oh my God, where are you? What are you doing? Do you have, so it just, you just got to stay on top of people, but you can do it.
I think that's why I haven't done it, because it's like, just like thinking of it. But I
And
like how
I
you
also
said,
don't have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So, that's a different thing,
oh, yeah,
But
true.
there are podcast studios in Atlanta all over.
I
Like,
know.
you drop in, you test for a podcast studio.
That is
And
interesting. Do you think that people would, so Pinky, I ended up just doing Zoom, and I'm like, I'm right here, but like she's 9 months pregnant. Like, I don't want to be like, so Pinky and I, even though I'm here, we did it on Zoom. If I have a bigger guest like that, I don't want to assume that they're going to come to Atlanta to do it. Like, how do you, until I have the numbers to like,
I mean, I think it's more like who's in Atlanta that's like, so I think Pinky would do it. Maybe not right now, obviously.
She did it, but it was virtual.
But thinking in the future,
I gotcha. Stay in Atlanta.
Pinky launches something every year. So say in 6 months, she's launching something again and you really believe in it. And you're like, hey, can this time we do it in person? I'll send you a private car or whatever. Like, just make sure she's easy enough to get there. If someone you see that you really want to interview is speaking in Atlanta, reach out to their people. Like, it's the day they announce it. Most people usually do it like months in advance. The day they announce it, reach out to their people. Hey, I see they're in town. If they have an hour, I would love to bring them into my podcast studio. And not, even though it's not your podcast.
And then I find one. I need a,
but they're available. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of content groups and content houses that do podcast production, especially in Atlanta. So
true.
That's why I'm like, that show starts in LA, but I'm going to film episodes in DC. I already did a couple in Atlanta. Like, don't let yourself feel like you can't partner with other creatives to give you what you want.
Okay. I have 3 minutes. Dream guest for Heel Girl era.
Oprah Winfrey.
Okay. Put it out there, girl. Put it out there.
Yes. Oprah Winfrey. I'm trying to think of, because there's so many incredible people, but Oprah Winfrey would be amazing. I really want Janae Aiko, Lauren London. I'm sure I'm going to have men on eventually. So I would love it. Andre 3000, because I love what he's doing right now. And when I think about, the therapists that are changing lives, there's Dr. Thema, there's Nedra Tawwab, there's Dr. Anita Phillips, even having Sarah Jakes on, because so much of it started at her conference. Yeah. So like, I have a lot of dream guests and a lot of people that want to be on it. But my biggest hope is that it is a space for women to come when they're ready to take off the mask of the world and just be their full selves and tell their full journey, and that we can make them feel seen, and that, we will have doctors on there too, because healing is a forever journey, but it's also something that if you don't have a therapist, you need help, like you need tools. And so we'll have a mix of doctors, and we'll have a mix of public figures who got to the other side of whatever they're going through, and also ready to talk about, because a lot of people aren't ready to really open up about their journey, but that doesn't mean that they haven't learned things along the way that aren't valuable. And so I hope to have a mix of people who are able to give the audience tools and direction and just points of traction that they know that they can get through whatever they're going through.
You have done that. We have very similar whys in sharing these inspiring stories to make other women feel seen, sharing vulnerable, authentic stories. This is where you're at now. Where do you see this ultimately going for Gia Peppers? 10 years from now? What is it?
10 years from now, I mean, I always look at Queen Latifah as a career icon. So for me, I want to continue to do incredible things. I want to help these stories grow. I want to give platforms, and I want to get back into singing, acting, and dancing. I've always loved that. And so, getting back on stage in that way would be amazing. Hosting on TV would be amazing. And so for me, it just looks like more purpose, family. It looks like starting a family, having a husband. It looks like all that. And it looks like owning whoever I am in that moment too, because I've learned that the journey is going to unfold exactly as it should. And hard things will happen, and sad things will happen, and big things will happen, and great things will happen. But I will be me, and I will be okay. And, I'll figure it out. But the biggest thing I want is that, this show makes an impact on people's lives. I want people to hit me and be like, gee, I
Yes.
was in a meeting the other day and I was about to shrink and I didn't because Kelly told me not to. And
Yes.
so like that's really what I want. And then I walked away with that money that I was negotiating for. Like I want people to be able to look at it as a touch point of, ooh, I need some inspiration. Let me turn on the Healed Girl Era or another Gia interview or something like that, because I just want people to know that we live in a loud space. There's a lot of salacious viral things that happen all the time. So there has to be space for the other parts of us to thrive as well. And that's
Yes.
what I want this to give.
You gave it to me today. Listening to the Kelly. Yes, because I'm going into my single mom era. I'm 42 and I'm just in like a weird spot, and just listening to her talk, like we're the same age, and just stop littling people and stop shrinking down. Like you gave me that today, listening to Hill Girl Era. If anybody wants more from you, where can they find you?
They can follow me on all things at Gia Peppers on social. And my YouTube channel is Gia.Peppers. So if they want to check out the Healed Girl Era, they can podcast, they can check it out there. And yeah, GiaPeppers.com has everything. So if you want to just go to GiaPeppers.com, that is the place to be.
You are goals, you are magic, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Erin. I really enjoyed this.